Are you like most contractors I talk to who are stuck in the daily grind? They're stuck on the job site. Even though they have a team, even though they have project managers, they still seem to somehow find themselves running to the job site, appeasing the client, helping their project managers get that job over the finish line, wearing all the hats, problem solving, putting out the fires, and it can be exhausting. And so one of the contractors I worked with actually came to me with that exact scenario. They're not a small business, in fact, they're about 6-7 million a year, but they were still stuck in the day-to-day operations. And so when where he's able to take vacations, he's able to, and turn his phone off. He's able to grow his business. His team is actually functioning in a way that gets him out of the job site and without putting out fires, able to put in the marketing systems to grow his revenue. So I'm going to go through this entire process of exactly what I did and why I did what I did. That you liked this video, and I'll create more like this one. So the first thing that I do when I start working with a new contractor is to figure out where the leverage points are at, because the leverage point is actually where we can do a tiny bit of tweaking and create massive results. It goes along the lines of the 80-20 rule or the Pareto principle, where 80% of the work only produces 20, whether it's time, money, or even energy and resources. And so one of the things that we look at is teams. And so when this particular contractor came to me, he had a full team. He had project managers, he had superintendents, he had laborers, he works with a ton of subs, he's a landscaping contractor, he had a couple of people in the office, his wife does a lot of the accounting and finances and stuff. They knew their numbers, and yet he was still stuck on the job site. He was still reaching that point of burnout, and he still could not figure out what was going on. In fact, they did have a lot of systems, but he was like, okay, well, what am I missing? Because we have systems, but they're not working because I'm still exhausted at the end of the day and I'm still working 60 hours a week and I don't know what to do. So like I mentioned, with somebody who already has a team in place, we actually have to just make those fine-tune adjustments to put the right team in the right spots. In fact, recently I was camping with a retired NFL player, and he was kind of throwing a football around with some of the kids and things like that. And my husband was like, hey, I always throw the football like this, but I should throw it like that. You mind teaching me a little bit? And he's like, yeah, I mean, I can teach you a little bit, but I'm not a really good thrower. And we kind of just laughed because he was on 2 different NFL football teams, and yet he says he's not a very good thrower. He's like, but I can catch and into the quarterback role. They're not going to win the game. But if you have somebody in a quarterback role, try to be a tight end, they're not going to win the game. Everybody has to be where their strength, in my realm, we call them geniuses. And so if you have the right people in the right spots, you can grow your team. When you have the right people in the right spots, you can grow your business without having you work more hours and more time. And so the first thing that we did is we had everyone on their leadership team. So not the laborers, not the people who just show up and need to clean up, project managers. Those are the owners. Genius assessment test is not similar to like Myers-Briggs or DISC or whatever like that, because it really doesn't show you what you are on the inside. It shows you how you interact with people and how your business flows. So basically the way it goes, so basically the way it starts out is that the way it works is that every job is a 6-letter job. The first one is wonderment. And this is the person who asks the questions like, well, what if? What if we do this? The next one is invention. And this one shows people The next one is invention, and this is usually identified by people who come up with all the ideas. In fact, this was where the business owner in this circumstance thrived. He had to then take those ideas, take his discernment, and complete the job. But I'm getting ahead of myself, so let's just hold back a second. The next letter is G, and this stands for galvanizers. So D is for people who have discernment. Usually if you have 2 on a leadership team, one is going to come up with all the ideas and the other one's going to shoot them all down because they have this innate wisdom or this intuition that is a little bit unexplained, but typically they're spot on. In fact, my husband has discernment, and so when he's like, my gut's telling me this, I'm like, okay, that's it. That I can't see because I don't have discernment. Now, it is a competency, so it's not that I don't have it, it's just not a genius of mine. So the next one is G, and this is galvanizers. This is where people have the ability to take that vision, take the decision that came from the discerners, and implement it. So if you've ever read the book like Traction, this is the integrator. This is the person who can create the plan, rally the troops, get everyone in order, and make that happen, get things done. Now the next one is E, which is represented for enablement. Now I call these the worker bees or the workhorses. They literally just need a task list. This is what we got to do, and they just go for it. They work so hard, but they can't come up with the ideas. That's not their genius, unless they have that as a genius. But they're just the girls, or who are laborers, or even your superintendents that just need to get stuff done. Then now everyone has two geniuses. So this is where the fun comes in how their things are paired, because they may have a genius in being a worker horse, but then they may have also the galvanizing genius, so they can actually put everything together and create the plan and rally the troops to get everybody to follow through with that. Now, last but not least is tenacity. People who are tenacious. And so these are the people who get it over the finish line, who get all the T's crossed, all the I's dotted, and everything in order for that job to be completely done. So if you notice, you start way up here, and you can call this altitude, high, way up here at like, hey, I wonder if, hey, here's a bunch of ideas that correlate to the what if. Then you've got the discerner saying, okay, here's 100 ideas, let's pick this one and let's move forward with this one. Direction, rowing the boat in the same direction so they can actually get to. Then you've got the worker bees, and you've got the people who make sure it crosses the finish line and gets done. Now, if you look at this, this is exactly how every construction project works. This is exactly how it needs to happen. Typically, somebody's going, hey, I wonder if I could expand my house without having to move. And then you're the remodeling company that you come in and go, okay, well, here's all the ideas on how to actually make that happen. And then it's like, okay, we got to narrow it down to a couple of ideas. This is what we're going to move forward with. This is the plan. And then you've got the galvanizer who's going to be like, okay, here's the schedule, here's the plan, who's doing what, here's the subs, this is how we're doing everything. Finish it, get the punch list done, sign the contract payment, and be done with the job and collect that review at the end of the day. And so this is how it should work in a construction business. Now the problem is that when I have a whole leadership team take the Working Genius assessment test, I have, buddy, you are too loud. When I have a whole team take the Working Genius assessment test, I can see holes. In fact, every single team, and it only takes about 10 minutes. It's not a super long test. It just shows you where you find joy and what frustrates you and will burn you out, and kind of the scale of everything in between. And so when I had this team take this assessment test, we figured out that G was their missing component. In fact, most of the people that I've done a whole team, I'm going to get a little bit on a tangent here, but I am actually a very strong G. And so this is why it works for me to go and coach contractors, because I basically insert myself into their business. I help put in all the systems in the right role. So back to this contractor. We noticed a couple of things. First of all, the contractor owner was an ID, which means that he came up with all the ideas, but then he also the discernment. Now he wanted to come up with all the ideas with the vision of the business and what way the business wanted to go, and he wanted to work on the business. The problem is that his genius was showing up in the job site, and he was stuck solving all the problems. He finished the job, and he was having people do their job. In fact, actually some were EW, which is a very unique combination where they come up with all these ideas and then they just go work for it, and there's no discernment or plan in place. And so things are scattered, and it's a little bit discombobulated because there's not that plan in place. There's not that galvanizer in place. And so basically what was happening is, like I mentioned, everybody has two geniuses, two competencies, so they can do it, and they can, and two frustrations, meaning that they just get so frustrated doing the little tasks. And I can guarantee you that right now you're probably thinking, okay, that's me or that's not. That G was missing. We saw that they had some areas of strengths. In fact, they actually had a lot of people in wonderment too. So there was a lot of people just like, hey, what if? What if? What if? And it's like, no, we got to get the job done. We can't make the plans. We can't go back to the architect when we're already 3/4 of the way through the job. It doesn't work that way. And so what we had to do is actually shift some roles around. And so some of the project coordinators were actually more in a scheduling type role, and they weren't actually doing the coordination with the subs and stuff. And so we moved them, and some of their roles and responsibilities we moved to kind of fulfill this. And then now we're hiring for this role. In the meantime, I'm still coaching not really, but that's kind of how it ends up working out. So that way I can help her and help them create that congruency So I can help them create that flow that gets a job from we first meet a client all the way down to we get that thing signed, they give us a review, we get that final check, and they become our client for life. And so when we look at it from this perspective, we can see what is missing and fulfill. From there, we can now that we know the role that we're going to make, we can now do the job descriptions. We can do all the SOPs related to that job description. We can put, now that we know who we need on our team, now we can go forward with, now that we know who we need on our team, we can now move forward with a job description and a training plan, a 30, 60, 90-day training plan that's specific for this. So I have all the frameworks for that, and then I help you take who you need and modify it to your business, so that way you have all the SOPs and everything ready to go. So when you hire this person, they're up to speed quickly. Now, once we were able to do this, he was able to get out of the day-to-day operations, which means he could focus on market roles that were actually being done by people who, that was their frustration. It was burning them out. And so they weren't able to do their best work because they were in the wrong role. And so once we fixed that, he could then move on to marketing. So we got the right people in the right place, and we got the systems in place so that they knew what to do, how to do it, and what to do to meet and exceed those expectations. Nothing. It just was like, hey, we're the best contractor. This is what we do. This is how we do it. And you should hire us. Click this button to call. And so they were spending tons and tons of money on ads that were just not going anywhere. And they were like, well, I know people advertise on Facebook and Instagram and stuff, but like we throw out ads on Facebook and Instagram, and it just seemed, instead of my hiring system, which we did, we now moved on to marketing, which is a lot of fun because ability to go have fun with this side of their business, to work on their business. They started the business. They have excitement about the business. They have a story about experience. They have all of these things that they needed to go share with the world and to help other people understand why they should be trusted. So when they've got all these ads that are just like, hire me, I'm the best contractor, and it looks exactly like all the other ads in town, and everybody's seeing these same ads, there's just like a picture of something and then like, hey, we're the best, call me, we're the best. It just does not build trust. But by building trust and giving value. And so what we did is we actually created a campaign where we did videos to just the area that he was located in. And all those videos were value. Hey, this is what we do. This is how we do it. This is our process. This is what people have said about working with us. And so I actually have a whole script. I call it my GPS framework. So G stands for the gap. This is what makes you different than other contractors. Like, why should I hire you? And you can have that a lot of different angles. And I have whole video scripts on how to do that. And then you've got the P. We're going to be a little bit of delay because we're going to have to get all the permitting. Sometimes there's a holdup with the city. Then there's this, like all of that process. You need to let people know what to expect before they expect it. And so when you say, hey, here's the roadmap, and then it follows that roadmap exactly, you have then built trust because you say what you say. Because what you say you do, you actually do, and that builds trust. In fact, I call that stealth influence, where you're not just influencing them, but you're influencing them by your actions. GPS framework. Oh, and then S is for the story. What is your story? Why did you start your business? Like, what makes it your business and have you passionate about your business? And so he did videos, and he did it just to the area of his town. So he didn't specify anything weird. So if you notice these videos, they're going to fulfill different gaps, and people are going to resonate with different videos within that area. And then what we did is we created an audience on Facebook. Assistants, actually how to do this. In fact, virtual assistants are some of the roles that we did hire for virtual assistants as well. He hired a marketing assistant. He hired a sales and executive assistant. And so all of those virtual assistants help him implement this entire plan. So from there, he took 25%, of the people who have watched, 25% of them. So that was confusing. So what we did is we created an audience on Facebook of the people who have taken this video and watched 25% of it. So if it's a 4-minute video, and you've watched 25% of it, then that equals 1 minute of watch time. That's longer than a Super Bowl commercial, which means that simplified viewer, they're not really that interested for 3 seconds. But somebody who's watching in a minute, now that's pretty qualified. So we did this, and so we created an audience, watched videos of all these videos for 25%. And then he targeted this with videos from all of his clients talking about how awesome it was to work with them as a contractor. So instead of the ads saying, look, we're the us, and how they helped them come true, and how they transformed our backyard, and how they turned this back patio into a sunroom, and how they added a deck so that way we'd actually be able to access the outside from the top floor, and all of these different things, they accessed it to this and made lots of money. In fact, do you want to know how much they made? They made, in fact, you want to know how much they closed? They closed $7 in one freaking month. Just 1 month, they got over $750,000 because they ran this campaign. Now, this wouldn't have been possible if they didn't first set up the audience and talk to them. He can get the video testimonial from them. He usually brings a nice gift when he does that, so that way they feel special. They feel like $1,000,000. He's happy, they're happy, and then he uses that video to market his business and makes a lot of money. And so now, in fact, while he was making this amount of money, he actually was in Greece for 11 days when did not check his phone, because we put the team in place, we put the systems in place, and then we put the marketing component in place, so that way his whole business runs the way it should, and it runs with efficiency, so that way he can grow without burning out. If this video was helpful for you to see this whole walkthrough on how I help this client, then just click the button below to like this video and subscribe to this channel, and I'll see you in the next video.